Welcome back. Can you hear me?
Welcome
Because I have
back.
my earpieces on, but I don't know if I can. Yeah, I
I know
think.
y'all missed us.
Yeah, we a lot has happened.
A lot has happened. A lot's going to happen. We're gonna be doing
hmm
some rebranding soon. So, we took like a week off, not on purpose, but we kind of needed to. It's the
hmm
summer. So we're gonna probably be off
We
probably for another
we
2 weeks because I'm gonna do my vacation,
yeah,
my
and we
yearly.
got children, and we got children, and we got children. It's the summer. We mamas, so
Yeah, and it's time for that. We finally gonna do our yearly road trip, but it's gonna be like a fake
yay.
road trip. It's gonna be a flight and then hitting the road because not enough time
Still
to
a road
drive
trip.
up and down the East Coast.
Still a
So
road trip, though. Still a road trip.
yeah, it'll be a
Still a
road
road
trip
trip.
that starts on the East Coast. So we fly there
Very
and then
nice.
go
Very
to some cities there. So we'll
nice.
probably be off for the next couple of weeks and then come back right when
Yeah.
school's about to start.
Absolutely. So we wanted to jump on here, even though it was the summer, because uh, African American study curriculums in Florida has since changed. It's been all over the news, all over the country, not just here in Florida. But so if you haven't heard already, there's a part in the curriculum that says that the enslaved learned skills that were beneficial to them. And it's from my understanding, and everybody can interpret it the way they want to, but from my understanding, what is being taught to children are that those of our ancestors that were enslaved gain new skills or gain skills that subsequently benefited them. So everyone that I've spoken to and that I've watched on TV has an issue or takes issue with the fact that somehow Florida's Department of Education is trying to, in my opinion, justify that. To me, that's like a justification of slavery, and that there were good things that came out of slavery. And that slavery, to me, the interpretation for me would be slavery was a good thing. And because it was a good thing, all these enslaved people gained these skills that subsequently benefited them somehow. That's my interpretation. I'm gonna let Sandra tell you what her interpretations are about that. That's my interpretation.
I mean, so
I mean, we've talked about what our people, African Americans, Black people, how we take something from nothing, but I don't call that like okay, go ahead, you go, because I don't even know what to say at this point. That's my interpretation. Let's see what Sandra said about her interpretation.
Listen, so that's one of those things that really kind of renders a person speechless, right? To try to turn something that really was horrendous, right? To try to make that a good thing or something that was beneficial to people is just like, we're getting to like, we're just getting lower and lower and lower. And my question is always, how low can they go? And then just when you think they've hit bottom, and when I say they, it's these people, people like DeSantis, some of the conservative Republicans who really just want to take rights away from, everybody except for white males, which is a very un-American. Well, maybe that is American because,
that's how they roll.
I guess they're just doing what they do, right? To try to justify an institution like that and say that people develop skills that made their life better is just... There's no words for that. And when I hear that, all that's telling me is I just need to educate my children, right? One of the things I did, I used to try not to do was go against the curriculum that was provided to my children in school. Because at the end of the day, they had to go and take these exams. And if they answered the questions different from what was there, then it will be a problem, right? Now all bets are off. They're gonna just go ahead and if that's gonna end up being an F, it's gonna be an F and a conversation with me, right? Because then now I just got to go to the school and be like, the lies must stop, right? Like, I'm just not gonna. We as parents, especially parents of children of African descent, there's no way that we can be okay with that being taught to our kids, right? Like, maybe some person that's not of African descent may need that to be the narrative in order to make them feel comfortable and all that type of stuff. And if that's what they want their children to think the world is like, that's their business, right? But for me, no. My kid, I'm reading all the books and the curriculum and the exercises that come home right now, and I will have a conversation with them. And I'm also going to encourage my children in the classroom to tell the teacher that ain't it, that ain't true, and then I'll deal with the discipline in the meetings with the APs or the principals or whoever. So we're just gonna be having a whole bunch of meetings and conversations because they're gonna say my kids out here saying something different from what the books say, and it's just gonna have to say that.
It's just gonna have to be that. This is gonna have to be that. You're absolutely right. It's just, I don't mean to cut you, but it's just I've always taught my kids to challenge in class with respect. I've always told my children, anytime you hear something or something doesn't seem right, or based on what we've taught you at home or whatever, challenge it. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, people other than Black people challenge their students challenge the schools on a regular basis, and it doesn't start in high school. Them kids are challenging from elementary school. So I've always told my kids to challenge that. But the fact that they are making it very clear that to take slavery as horrific as it was, and there's somebody that came on, I think it was on the Fox News, where he says, "Oh, slavery was horrible. It was abhorrent, or whatever," but it doesn't negate the fact that enslaved people learned, got skills that benefit them. And it's like, how do you say that in the same sentence? And the fact that they say that part, they come off with, "Oh, slavery was horrible, it was horrific," but it doesn't change the fact. What are you talking about?
Okay, so see, that's a Laude. All right. So, because the reason why they went and got those people to come and work there is because they already had a set of skills. Okay, so there was no training being done there. All right. So the whole idea that they trying to act like they're the ones who, once the people got here, they trained them in order for them to do that work. It is just pure nonsense.
It's insanity.
The was already there and existed, and that's why the liver was being used, right? That's one thing. And then the other thing is Whitney, what is his name? It's not Whitney Young, the one who invented the cotton gin, right? So it wasn't them that invented that. It was a Black person that invented that to make what they were doing, to help them get more cotton. So it wasn't any skills or any training or anything that white folks were doing that gave Black people more skills. We came with the skills, we came with the intellect, that we're the ones who survived that journey, right? And already was strong in and of ourselves. So to act like anything they did benefited us is pure nonsense. We were strong because we actually survived such a horrendous institution. So there's nothing that their institution gave us that made us any better. As a matter of fact, it was a complete disservice to African people as a whole. So to say that is like, give me a break already. Y'all don't even believe the words that's coming out of your mouth. If that's what you need to say to make yourself feel better, then go ahead and say it.
When I say to you, I thought that the minute you said that, the minute he said it, I thought exactly what you said. I'm like, you came and got us with all our skills. Like, y'all couldn't make it a day in the African desert. Y'all came and got us with our skills. And so I feel like they're adding insult to injury. Number one, chattel slavery was the most horrific slavery in this country. Then you're going to add
in the world.
In the world, period. Thank you. In the world. So you're adding insult to injury by saying that we gain skills, like, and then you want to package it in such a way that it's palatable to white children. To white children, it's not palatable.
I don't even know.
They're trying to make it so where talking about slavery is supposed to be something that doesn't not offensive by saying that we gain skills. That's how I feel. That's how I'm taking it.
To me, what they're doing isn't necessarily going to resonate with the children now, right? Mm-hmm. Because they know better, right? Like you could go ahead and put that in a new book, and them kids got siblings, the kids have parents, so it's not necessarily going to resonate. What the danger in this is that it's always the long-term effect, right? It's just like you're just a little drip of the hate. Because now one of the things that we're also seeing now is the real effects of what 45, 20, the messaging and the terrible things that 45 did as president, and the types of children that was raised with all of that crazy and the hate and all the nonsense that they talk about. Now we're starting to see the consequence of that indoctrination. They don't want to call it that, but that's what it is, right? So we're not going to see the effects of telling people that Black folks got skills from slavery right now. We're going to see what that looks like in about 4 or 5 years when that's being, is being told over and over again, right?
It's variations. So don't forget that just because it's being told over and over again, they vary and they change how they tell it to make it more to drive in the message. So with this variation, I don't mean to cut you. Go ahead.
No. So I'm sure, I suspect it'll be incorporated in every curriculum, not just in history. They're gonna make it a math question, and it's gonna be in one of the word problems, or it'll come up in science somehow, and that type of thing to to perpetrate this lie that they want to tell tell to the American people who don't know better. But like I said, my kids are very understanding of that they're Black people. However, I allowed them to say, okay, I was like, well, if that's what the answer is going to be to that question, in order for you to pass that assignment, say that. But because I even remember when my son was in 4th grade and they were learning about Native Americans, they do that trip to St. Augustine, and they tell you this stuff about how the Native Americans just gave the land to the French and the Spanish. I'm like, oh, that's what they said. I'm like, yeah, so that ain't what happened, but go ahead and answer that question the way they want you to answer that question. But right now, this whole stuff about, because I did, of course, I let them know. I'm like, yeah, that ain't kind of happen, because it don't make no sense for somebody to just give away 1 million acres, okay, or however many millions of acres it was. So but if that's what you need to do to answer that question, go ahead. But this whole thing about giving people of color, people of African descent skills and made their life better and improved and all that foolishness, we ain't doing that. So I'm ready for the meetings with the APs and the principal. I'm ready.
I also want to highlight that there is an African American task force on the Florida Department of Education level.
Who's in it? Who's on it?
Who is it, you ask? So there's 6 African Americans. Out of the 6, 5 of them are Republican, and one of them is yours truly, a board member here on Broward County Public School Boards. There is also a representative, I forgot her name, but she has been on the news quite a bit. I think she is a pastor. She moonlights as a pastor, and she's a Florida rep. I'm not sure if she's in the Senate or the House. But in one of her videos, she said, "Thank God for slavery."
I think I did see that video.
Yeah,
because she said other than that, she would have been in Africa doing something.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, so these are the type of
lady. I did see that lady.
Yeah. So correct. So these are the type of people we have at the helm who are.
And I assure you, that lady ain't never been to Africa. I almost can, like, I don't know her, but I might have to put some money on that she ain't been there. And I've been to Africa. I've been to West Africa and I've been to North Africa, and she ain't been to no Africa for her to say that, because listen, there's oil in Africa, okay? So there's oil in Africa. There's natural resources in Africa. There are diamond mines in Africa. There's gold in Africa. There's all this stuff in Africa. So there's a whole bunch of rich
resources,
right? Very educated Africans, very rich Africans. So that so the image that America or European countries want to put out there about these starving Black folks, it's lies.com, okay? And I'm not saying that there aren't any impoverished people in some of those nations, but there's some poor people in America too that America tries to ignore, all right? Because I'm working in rural communities right now, and if you feel like you're going in a time warp when you go into some of these communities,
absolutely,
so America 100%. Needs to go ahead and stop it. And this woman, I assure you, she ain't been to no Africa for her to be making no comment talking about she would have been living some kind of whatever way had she been there. Has she still been there?
So I said all of that because I wanted you all to know that they were part of the curriculum process. They weighed into it. They helped make decisions for it. So while I want to make sure that we are directing our emails and our calls to the Florida Department of Education, but we also need to highlight the fact that this African American task force that has 6 African Americans on it played a part and played a role. One of the members who was appointed by the governor on this. All of them were appointed. And normally, what happens is the board before the prior board is in the process of getting and electing the new board to come on, but the governor decided to appoint everybody this time. And I think it's within his purview. And out of the 6, 5 of them are Republicans. The woman that we were just talking about, I got to get her name. And then we do have a current sitting board member who was appointed on the school board of Broward County, who is now also appointed on this task force. So I said all of this to say that when we talk about voting and why it's important to engage and participate, it makes a very, very, very big difference. If you're not going to vote, and this is not your forte, I'm telling you that every vote counts. There are people who are up for the school board seats in 2024. We have several seats that are up in the state house, and we have several seats that are open in local elections. And I'm telling you, if we don't jump on top of this and make sure that we are voting in 2024 in record numbers, we're going to continue to see the erosion of true history of African Americans in this country.
So voting is important, but candidate quality is going to be an issue too, right? So if the party, and when I say the party, I mean the Democratic Party, continues to put out candidates or not put out candidates at all, because that's one of the bigger problems that they have, is like they put out some candidates and we're like, well, who told y'all to do that? But then there are so many races where people are running unopposed, right? There's no Democratic candidate at all, right? No, so we have to put candidates out there for people to vote for. And then we also have to encourage folks to, like, in particularly in like statewide races, that just get everybody to vote, because all of those numbers add up and all of those numbers count. But the party definitely needs to do something better, needs to do a better job of the candidates that they're choosing to put forward. And then, of course, the branding, the messaging is another thing too. Because you have to, with the messaging, you're going to get people, you'll get people to come out and vote. So there's a couple of things that needs to be addressed. Now, I hear what you're saying about the people that they put on this education committee, right? And I'm one of those people that believe that we should rely on government for certain things. But it's getting to the point where there's some things that we can't rely on government to do that, right? And educating our children absolutely seems to be one of those things. Should they be educating our kids? But are they doing a good job of it? No. So we absolutely need to find a way to supplement the education, particularly children of African descent, children of color, children with different ethnic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds. That it's going to take, the village is going to need to do that, because it's not coming from the schools. And at this point, I have absolutely no confidence in the school doing that. They taught your kid to read, and do some math, and it's up to you to elevate that education once they can read. You know, because
we are here. We're
we're
supposed to really work with the schools and supplement our children's education, and that's where we come in. We need to do supplementations. We need to make sure we are watching. We, like Sandra said, we cannot rely on a school only. We got to see what they're giving our kids, and then we supplement their education.
And it's something that's happening not only just what they're teaching, children of African descent. I teach on a college level. And we were talking, so we were having a conversation about crimes against decency and crimes against public order. And one of the crimes against decency is fornication and seduction, right? And the students were like, wait, what? That's a crime? Like seduction, fornication, and adultery are all crimes against decency, right? And in the United States for a long time, those were actually things that you can get arrested and go to jail for, right? And they were just like, it just blew their mind, right? And so I asked them, I was like, did you guys read The Scarlet Letter? And they're like, what? What's that? I'm like, well, that's a book that we read in English class. I think either in like 9th or 10th grade or something like that.
Yep, I remember that.
They had no idea what I was talking about. And I'm like, so what, they don't teach that anymore? So, and I was like, well, did y'all learn about the Salem witch trials or anything like that? No. Did you read Lord of the Flies? No. Did you read George Orwell, 1984? No. They're not even reading. So it's not only children of African descent that's being impacted and not being educated and not learning about different types of stuff. It's just the educational system across the board. So there are things that, I was taking for granted that my kid would get to read so they can have certain understanding of like the world and just how people can be, but they're not even getting that. So in terms of, again, so all that to say, to expect this, at least in Florida, to expect the schools to really prepare your children for whatever the real world and life and critical thinking skills, I can't see how that is something that we should be relying on. And then, and I also saw something when I went on the school board website, that this is like the second round of the school choice people. I guess that's the folks that's about to take the money out of the public school and send it to a private school. So you got that happening. So, I mean, I guess I understand why they're running away from the public school system, because they ain't got them reading nothing. I mean,
nothing at all.
What were considered the classics when I was.
We have, people are like trying to stay away from saying the word banned books, but there's a list of books that are not allowed to be in the school system.
But I don't even know if that was on that book. It's not even about those being on the banned books, because
I know that
is something new. I'm talking about the students I have already graduated high school, so they're in college now. So they should have read those books some years ago.
Right. I totally understand that. And I'm not sure that the books that you mentioned, because I read those books in I think 10th grade, were on the list, but we have to deal with that on top of them not really giving them the overall experience of education. Listen, education in this country, in the United States, is at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of funding, in terms of resources, in terms of the government putting effort into making education a number one priority. And then you have southern states like Florida that is just eroding it further. So I say all this to say that I've been making supplement in my kids' education when they're at home. I have a plethora of books that talks about real African-American history. And as long as you are able, because I know some people work several jobs and they're unable to do those things or whatever, but make it a point to, at least on the weekends, if you have some time, take your kids to the library, look to different bookstores, and supplement your children's education. Because I promise you, when you have a curriculum that that states that the enslaved gained a benefit by being enslaved, you need to really check what your kid is reading and what they're providing. I don't even know how the teachers who have to present this information, how they feel about it. I've heard a couple of teachers talk about it and really trying to grasp the idea of how they're going to work with this information. I don't know. I'm speechless. I really am. What I can say though, that I'm extremely offended. Like, I'm extremely offended but I don't know how to put that into words on how, because my level of offense is enraged is on a rage level, not I'm not little. I'm so, it vexes my spirit. It vexes my spirit. So we got a new superintendent.
So the last point on that, what they're trying to do with African American history is that it's not sustainable. Like, to me,
it's
what's
not
happening is absolutely not sustainable. And even like the most uninterested parent, like if a parent who's just like, you know what, I ain't got no time for this. I send my kids to school because you need to be out my house because I can't feed them during the day. Even like that parent is like, y'all got to be messed up, because ain't too many of them believing that was an institution, that slavery was an institution that benefited folks, right? Like at that point, it's like you just getting everybody mad, right? And like I said, there's gonna be a whole bunch of meetings. Bring that homework home. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a whole problem. And I suspect that some of the teachers, I don't know how you teach that with a straight face. Like, you understand? Well, you know what I mean? I know what you got to do to get your check and all that stuff, but I mean,
I'm telling you, some of them don't even know how to navigate themselves around that. Like they're seriously having conversations amongst themselves to figure out how that's going to work. And I have to tell you that African American task force, I signed up. They're having some kind of training on the. I'll put the link in our thing or whatever. Training on August 6th and 7th, I think, or 7th and 8th. I already registered to go on there. I'm very curious to see. And it's online, so I'm able to do it online because it's up in Tallahassee, but I'm able to do it online. I'm very curious to see what that training is going to look like, because I'm telling you right off.
Who are they trying to train?
All teachers and substitute teachers and those who are interested to see what.
Also, the public can't be a part of that?
Yes, they can. I have to send you the link. It was initially done for July, and then when that new board was installed, I think that's why the curriculum changed. That new board was installed, they scrapped it and they postponed it. And right when they postponed it, that's when a few weeks later, that's when this new curriculum came out. So I'm gonna put the link on our page.
I think we might need to invite Chris Benjamin back, because I thought he had. When he was on our show, that's Rep Benjamin out of Miami Gardens. I thought when he said he got a bill passed about African American curriculum or something like that. So I want to know how those two how that reconciles with
yeah,
what it is that he said he did. So absolutely. I'm at least gonna ask him. I at least need to ask him on that, because I don't know if he's gonna have time to come back on the show to talk about it. But I definitely want to I'm gonna ask him about that and report back on how what he got passed works with what is happening right now in terms of this new language about slavery that's going to be incorporated into curriculum.
I wish all our teachers good luck in August, especially our middle school and high school teachers, because I'm telling you, some of them that I spoke to, my little teacher friends, they're still trying to wrap their heads around how that's going to look. And they do get some training over the summer, so they're getting all this information as it comes, and they're trying to kind of make that.
Train them how to lasso more.
Girl.
All right.
That's what that is. But that's what that is. I mean,
Lord.
We need to be transparent and intentional about the words we use, because that's a lie. Ain't nobody benefited. Ain't no enslaved or our ancestors benefited. Ain't no skills that we gained. You need to just stop the madness. We didn't benefit from nothing.
I mean, we helped them. They benefited.
We ain't benefit from nothing.
I mean, they got generational wealth. They got rice. You know what I'm saying? They got all kinds of stuff. So
you got states that are fighting for reparations. We ain't getting nothing. What we get? What we benefit from that? Well, I want to see. We don't got no legacies. Like, what you talking about? What we benefited from? So to put that in curriculum and make it look like, and tell our Black babies that there was a benefit to slavery for us, y'all gonna sit somewhere with that. Y'all go find several seats. You find somewhere to go sit somewhere with that. So, what is that? What is that term people say? You better try Jesus, don't try me. Like that right there. If you don't feel vexed in your spirit, so my teacher friends, I'll be praying for y'all come August. As we continue to talk about teachers,
Mm-hmm.
we have a new superintendent. Dr. Licata is his name, I believe. I saw the first part of either a workshop or a meeting, I can't remember, where to me he already starting out where he need to be, but that's just me.
What did you say? He what?
He already starting where he don't need to be. He
What does that
already,
mean?
he comes in and he was like, well, there was a change in the agenda, and one of the board members wanted to know why there was a change and what precipitated the change. And those who voted for Dr. Licata, who wanted him, especially the chair, was like, well, he could send you there's a term she used. It was either like a supplement or a report, and then you could see through the report why. So but the superintendent took it upon himself to say, well, listen, I can talk about why it was changed, but I can assure you that this will be the first and last time. This will never happen again. We will make sure that when the agenda is presented, there won't be any changes. But to me, when you starting off like that, because he said that it was a meeting, take that back. So it was a meeting. So the next meeting I saw was a workshop, and there was a change to the agenda on the workshop. So it's either you gonna be consistent, I know I'm being petty, but I feel like I need to be petty because that whole process to get this new superintendent was rushed. You had people who were qualified for the position who were not allowed to be at the top 3. You had it was all a setup and a game, in my opinion. It wasn't done with fidelity, in my opinion. And now you have someone who is sitting there who is now the superintendent, and you already starting off, in my opinion, with the foolery. That's just me. That's just me.
I did see part of the workshop. To me, he looked like he's a little in over his head.
I agree.
He looks like he's a little in over his head.
I think he's a lot over his head.
The board members, I mean, they have their own agenda. Like I don't know how else to say it. But all those folks have their own agenda. They have things that they want to have happen, and they don't care about the students or how it's going to impact. I mean, I just don't
all of their agendas does not include, has nothing to do with the kids. They're all of them, every single last one of them. There's not one board member not on that board pointed or voted in that their agenda encompasses the kids. Not one. Not one. I'm sorry. Not one. Everybody, and you can clearly see what everybody's agenda is. It's so apparent because they have their vices that they hold dear to and that they kind of double down on, and it doesn't include the kids at all.
It does not. Not at all. Not at all.
Not one.
Yeah, so one of the things I saw that when I was watching, they were talking about they're trying to implement this new program to track information and about students and let them know about attendance and all of this stuff. And Jackie Goddard, who's in charge of who's the chair of the ESC advisory, she went up there like that program is trying to replace like Ed Plan and how you deal with IEPs and special needs kids. Yep. And it's not efficient, it's not effective. They weren't part of the conversation or anything like that. And they pretty much, but the folks who want that company to get that contract is hell bent on that company getting that contract, even though what they're trying to bring to the district may not be the best thing or the most appropriate thing or even effective. It might even set things back, but that's what they want, so it's gonna happen, right? And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm gonna say it though, right? So I had been asked to be part of a group to deal with whether or not they were going to keep the Promise program or replace it with like a indoor suspension type alternative school, whatever, right? We had one meeting, and then the second one was canceled, and the third one was happened today, and it was canceled pending the board having some other meeting at the end of August, right? And for me, it sounds like those meetings were canceled because they don't like the direction in which the people who they put on that advisory to make a recommendation. I don't think they like the direction that I don't think they were gonna. They saw the path of what the group was going to recommend. They didn't like it, and that's why they suspended those meetings until after the board made a decision. Because pretty much the board wants to do what the board wants to do, right? I could be dead ass wrong. I don't know, but I don't think I am. Right? I don't think I am. And to me, see, that's why I'm like, they just want to do what they want to do, right? And community input, stakeholder input, what's best for the students, and all
of that is
does not matter to them.
All of it is performative. Creating that group and then the thing is that, and I'm part of that group also. Creating that group to me was always performative. Even on the first day when we were there, the first thing I thought was like, to me, I don't know about you, but it seemed it was all haphazard to me. There was no direction. It was just out there, and basically,
I mean, it was direction. I just don't think it was going in the direction of the person that was moderating that group. And so it threw her off guard, and she was a little like, "Oh damn, this ain't what I thought."
Well, to me, when you say I'm at your will, you tell me what you want us to do. That's not direction, in my opinion. I'm just saying. There has to be a clear.
Well, I mean, it could be, because if you're there to truly get community input, you want to hear what the community wants, and then you're going to implement what it is that the community say they want. So I understand that part. I just think that ain't what she thought the community was going to ask for. So maybe she was sitting there not knowing, or at the same time she kind of knew that the board wanted a certain outcome. And she might have been there to try to see if she can get that outcome. But when it became clear that that's not what was going to happen, then she may have presented that she didn't know what was going on, or she might have been haphazard and all that kind of stuff. But that's partly because
there were some revelations in the meeting that that certain entities were all but promise would be removed completely. And that was mentioned in the meeting. There was a discussion that was made. There was a statement that was made at another a meeting prior to that one, where promise was all but guaranteed not to be completely removed. And now my issue is that this board doesn't create a foundation. They don't explicitly ask for what they're looking for. Everything is always in this general sort of intentional kind of way. And so now you have a moderator who's basically saying the board told her to create this group so they can come up with an idea. But then there's no clear direction, because according to her, she made a couple of comments saying that there was no really clear direction from the board. It was just basically, hey, let's get back to the drawing board or whatever. Bottom line is, the board wants to make the decision, do what they want to do. And to me, you waste the community's time, you waste the stakeholders' time in this performative way by saying, hey, see, we created it. However, we needed to get back based on the information we got. So we still had to mull it over a little bit, just so you can come back on August 26th and say, hey, yeah, we decided we're not going to.
But they didn't get no information back. They didn't get any information back. So I don't see
how much you want to bet that one meeting they're going to use the information that was collected and say,
no, they're not going to use that information, because that information ain't going to be helpful to them.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And listen, the email that I got, I don't know if you read the email, but the email I got was very vague. It didn't specify what exactly was discussed in the workshop. So I'm going to have to go back and look at it, because I saw the workshop up until a certain point to kind of get more specific information. But this is indicative of how the board moves, not in just promise program. This is indicative of how they move with everything else. I mean, you have a whole board member who was saying that they want to start paying teachers $100,000. Do I want teachers?
Not salary, with incentives. Not what. That's not the word they use. They use different words. It's like including a benefits package and all that. So
that other stuff.
It's not salary. It's with insurance and all of those other things.
Yeah, all those other things. I'm 100% behind that. I feel like they need to be making way more than that, in my opinion. Right? It's just, to me, it's just the way that the discussion goes. It's almost like, are you like, we playing with people? Like, what we doing? Like what we doing? It's just the way that they move, the way that they allow public comment, the way that they deal with advisory committees that are supposed to be there to be part of, in my opinion, I think advisory committees are not just there to give suggestions, but they're also an entity that holds the board accountable, and they're constantly being dismissed. And then the stakeholders, which are me and you, Aretha, Ruth Carr Lynch, and all, Ms. Shaw, anybody. We're all part of this stakeholder system, and we don't get it. We come in, we say what we need to say, and we are all collectively saying the same thing. And then you make a decision, and you do it based on what you feel anyway. So what's the purpose? What is this performative thing about? I don't understand. Don't bring nobody up in here then if you're gonna just do what you want. And then not even they don't even placate us by saying, oh, well, the community is saying this or whatever. It's like this small, tiny little discussion, and then they just vote. I mean, you remember the time when they all had a dissenting voice on something where the old superintendent was concerned, and then they all voted in the affirmative? Like, I'm confused. I don't understand. I don't understand, but that's the school board for you. So if you haven't been following the school board meetings, those meetings are taped.
Sometimes I want to be like, just don't, because like you really, if you are gonna listen to those meetings, you need to make sure you're doing something else at that time. Like, don't go like not fold your laundry or do your laundry or clean your house while you're listening to that meeting. Okay. Keep if you a housewife and you got house stuff to do, keep doing your house stuff, right? Yep. And if you're working in an office and you're working on some brief or motion or doing whatever, keep doing that while you listen to that meeting. Please don't stop going forward with your life and listen to those meetings. Like, just don't do that. Don't stop listening to your life. And listen
to it. But you can listen to it while if you're going jogging or you're walking or you're going on your treadmill, you know, whatever, you can watch it. You can do that. But I'm just saying, like, it's not something that you want to.
Don't stop your life to listen to them, because
don't dedicate a time to it and just sit back and watch. Don't do
make sure you're doing something else, because them people, they crazy.
The monotony of it all. All right, so let's go to this affirmative action. So we gonna wrap this up. Woo, child. I'm pretty sure this affirmative action issue, like you were saying, that it's a long-term thing. Like, when you were talking about the
you will see the real effects later.
You'll see the real effects later. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, where is this country going? Where are we going? Where are we going? Where we
not
going?
In the right direction. I know
we're not. Are we not going to evolve as people? Are we not going to? Is that? I mean, like, is that not like? Are we going to do? Are we in the state of regression? Like, where are we going?
I mean, I saw a post that someone said they're not going to Florida because Florida is back in the 1860s or something like that. You know what I mean? So,
and somebody said something about Georgia. They said, well, at least in Georgia is the 1960s, but we're talking about 18 over here. I'm just trying to understand. For me, I feel like life is something that you got to progress and move on, and go up steps and kind of evolve. I don't understand this regression. I don't.
Well, I mean, it may be regression to people, people of African descent, but for the rest of them, it might be progression for them, particularly since they believe that other folks are about to. This is part of that they will not replace us talk. Right, so part of the concern of people of color replacing white males. So this
ain't enough of us to replace you. Like, ain't enough of us. What are you talking about? Ain't enough of us. There's not enough of us to replace you. What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Okay, so I mean, I was responding in the sense that I believe a lot of what they're doing is from this idea of this "they will not replace us" type mindset. So that's why they're making all of these decisions that are, just backwards to everybody else, but maybe forward thinking for them.
So long term is not forward thinking.
Now you're starting to see my darkness. I'm gonna need to turn the light on right quick because I'm about to fade to black in here. So let me turn the light on. No, that's in my room. I don't have I usually have my light on, but
yeah, you know, I see it's starting to darken a little bit.
Dark outside because it's gonna rain, so I'm getting darker too. So let me turn some light on so I can brighten up a little bit. Give me a second. Well, go ahead, keep talking.
Yeah. So long term, I think that long term we're looking at. I just don't know if these lawmakers have thought through what that looks like long term. And I'm not sure that other groups understand how affirmative action affects them as well. So yeah, much better. And then you on mute. So I just don't understand.
No, I was saying I got brown again. I lightened up with the lights.
Like the lights. Okay, I don't know if other groups understand what that signifies, right? I because I think people think affirmative action is attached to Black people, as if affirmative action doesn't have a.
It's disenfranchised groups, period. It's just disenfranchised groups. That's Black people. The population that benefited the most from affirmative action was white women, because white women were disenfranchised too. And no one seemed to be talking about that.
No one seems to be talking about that, because I think the 55%. Well, what was the percentage this time? It wasn't 55% this time around. I think it was a little bit
about
higher
53.
This time. About 53. Okay, so that 53% act like they're untouchable. They really do. But now I think that they have an inclination. I'm hoping. Let me just say I hope. I hope they have an inclination when they start coming after your what's that? Your health. Well, women's health, because that is eroding. So I'm hoping that there's an inclination now that they're realizing how there's a bigger picture here, because it's the long-term effects I'm looking at. Like, for me, I feel like Black people as a whole, we're very resilient people. We make something out of nothing. We will find a way to get through. But white women, I don't know if y'all gonna be able to get through. I mean, your body is not yours no more. You can't make decisions on your own body no more. A job that you are qualified to get because you're a woman, you can't get it. Like, I mean.
So I was, and I think this has sounded the alarm for more than just Black people. Yes. I was on 2 calls yesterday, both from law schools. One was with the University of Chicago Law School, and the other one was with the Washington University, St. Louis's law school, talking about this very thing, about affirmative action in those cases that came out of the Supreme Court. And their concerns, and there was nobody Black on either one of those 2 panels, right? Which I thought, I was like, oh, so we talking about Black people, ain't nobody Black on them. So that's why, so this thing is more than about Black people, because the way that the Supreme Court now has chose to interpret long-standing precedent to make these types of decisions is going to go further than just impacting the rights of Black folks, right? And so the concern is very, very real, because they're interpreting language in ways that's in some sense dishonest. And one of the biggest concerns is that they've really politicized the court. Right. So the court is not supposed to be politics. The United States Supreme Court is not supposed to be a political entity. They're supposed to be able to be objective and make decisions that are sound. But the decisions that are coming out of the court is clear indication that the court has been politicized, and more communities of others are concerned about, are they next, right? Are they coming after rights that they hold dear to themselves too? So I think messing with Black folks was just the tip of the iceberg, because we always seem to be low-hanging fruit, right? Like, we're just low-hanging fruit because it's so many. It's, first of all, partly because even though they make it seem as though like it's probably the country's 50% Black, because you would think like we like half and half.
The way they move,
right? Because they move, right? But between 14 and 17% of the population, depending on who you speak to and how they classifying folks on any given day, right? So that's that. So I understand that that's the segment of the population that all of this concern is, right? So because we're a smaller number of the population, and then there's enough folks who they've convinced that they shouldn't like us, you can target Black people first, and very few people are going to say something, right? But the scholars see the long game, right? Because it's always a long game. The scholars see the long game and say, no, what they're doing is very dangerous, because they're basically rewriting history, reinterpreting what the law is to suit their own agenda. And you never know what that next agenda is and who it is that's going to impact. And that's why these schools were having these conversations, at least the ones that I saw yesterday. I really needed to, I'm trying to get the recordings so I can look at it again, right? So I can look at it again and really hear, understand what it is that was being said, because I did understand most of it, but I think like hearing it for a second time with perspective will, I'd be able to better articulate more of the concerns of the others. But I understand what the concern of Black folks are, right?
Right.
But trust me when I tell you, when you have law schools across the country having conversations about affirmative action, this ain't about affirmative action. Because I'm not saying that they don't care about Black people, but they don't care about Black people that much that they're having meetings like throughout the United States to discuss this.
Absolutely. And I also want to say that for Black people, we and I hate to say it, but it's the truth. We're accustomed to getting laws changed that further disenfranchise us, right? We know that, we see it, we understand it, and this is not like, all these new laws in Florida, all these things coming from the Supreme Court. This is nothing new to us. This is something we're accustomed to. I hate to say it, but we are accustomed to it. And we are always finding and working in our own silos, albeit our own silos, but we're always working to try to change, challenge, redefine, and all the other things. But what's key that you mentioned was that these law schools are talking, and they're talking because there are other groups. And these other groups, I think, are in for a rude awakening, because this is not something that they've ever had to kind of deal with per se, to challenge or figure out how they're going to do these things or redefine stuff or whatever. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that works. It's going to be interesting to see where Black people play a part in it. It's going to be very interesting to see how the legislator at the state, not the state, but the federal level.
Both state and federal level.
Both state and federal level, how they're going to maneuver themselves around it. And it's really going to be interesting to see how the Republicans deal with it. Because
there's already some unintended consequences that are happening right now, right?
Right now.
Because legacy admissions is under attack right now. The Department of Education has already filed complaints about, like, y'all can't have this legacy admission stuff going on, right? And that was benefiting people, privileged folks. And in some of the there are some schools who on their own have decided to rid themselves of, like, say, no, you don't get no extra points because you had a parent or a family member that went to our schools. So not only are, whatever the affirmative action, because they always think that really only benefited like Black folks, which is absolutely again not true. Crazy. Not only is that attack, legacy admissions is directly being impacted and looked at and under attack as a result of that affirmative action decision, right? Absolutely. And what these justices, they know better, but again, sometimes this thing is just to placate, the folks that supported them getting on the bench, right? So they make these kind of decisions. So what the schools can do now, and this came out of, I think, out of the WashU law conversation, was that, schools are looking for diversity. Diversity doesn't always mean Black, but there's ways in which they can ask for diversity and end up getting Black folks, right? They can say, okay, we want folks from rural communities, right? So you just go into a rural community in Jackson, Mississippi or something like that, or some parts of Alabama, and then you end up getting a bunch of black folks. If you're like, oh, well, we want people from urban communities, you know, whatever, and then you just go into an urban community, they got a zip code, they got a whole bunch of black people, and you get them that way. And those are all ways that you diversify your population, is trying to get people from different parts of the country to, you know, to be a melting pot at your university campus. So there are ways that they can legitimately, you know, go around this and still get the types of students that they want into their institution. But like I said the last time, those schools, particularly those that are the top ranked schools, they are not admitting students that they don't believe will graduate, because part of how they get their top ranking is how many students that they get to graduate out of their schools. So their retention rate is very important. So the idea that they think that they're allowing black folks or anybody of color, well, I can't even say people of color, because it was an Asian student that brought the Harvard lawsuit, and he's considered a person of color. So this is really about black people. So the idea that they're admitting black people at the expense of other qualified whites and Asians and everything is
absurd.
It's ridiculous.
It's absurd. You're absolutely right, 100%. So and you know, for me, I could speak about for a couple of people I know. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. In my opinion, you want to go ahead and say, hey, we're not going to do affirmative action, so we're going to strip all these colleges from these legacy things or whatever and stuff like that. So be it. Because I remember you told a story about doing blind admissions,
class of 1998.
Blind admissions or whatever, and they had the highest number of African Americans that they ever admitted on blind admissions.
Yep.
So be my guest, because at the end of the day, the most educated population in the United States are black women.
Black
so black folks,
black women on yeah.
If
black women,
women. Go ahead, black women.
And no, it's black women. That's it.
Black women.
You stop right there.
So if you wanna go ahead and do blind admissions, you could do it all day, day, and we're good all day. But
leave us in our HBCUs alone too.
Yeah, stop messing with us. We
leave them alone too. Y'all want y'all schools have it. Just leave everybody else alone.
We be minding our HBCUs.
Yeah, we minding our business. Mind yours.
We mind our business. So yeah, leave us alone.
Mind your business.
Mind your
Give them schools their money when their enrollment is high. Because and the reason why I say that is I think it was last year. It might have been last year or maybe 2 years ago. Tennessee State University had the highest incoming class. I think they had like 2,000 students or something like that was coming into their class, right? So it's a state school. So the state supposed to send them their money. They had to come and go and explain to the state legislators why 2,000 black folks wanted to go to school that semester. And they was like, well, we are Emmy Award winning school with a music program, this, that, whatever. And they had them come and explain and the reason why they did that was because they didn't want to send them the money for them having such a high number of students. And one of the guys straight up asked like, well, couldn't they just go to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga? Why they want to go to Tennessee State? And the president of the school, you know, she did everything. I mean, I give that sister all kind of like woo, because she was like, well, sir, you know, then that's when she explained of all of the accolades and the type of professors that they had at the university. But the fact that they had to come and explain why they had such high enrollment that year in order for them to get money that they're entitled to is part of the problem. So you don't want us in your schools, but then when we go to our own schools, you still bothering us. So have your schools, have your whatever you think you're doing, but leave us alone. And if folks choose to go to historically black institutions, colleges and universities, instead of dealing with the nonsense of having to explain their place in those institutions, then just send the checks to the university so they can educate the students that decided to give y'all exactly what y'all wanted.
To be black in this country is to be enraged at all times. I just listening to what you're saying already, it to me is just everything we do, black people, there always has to be an explanation as to why we're doing what we're doing. How do you make a college come in to explain why? Black kids want to be educated.
They had a high enrollment that year.
I can't. It just doesn't. I can't do it.
Like, yo, just send us our check.
I can't do it.
They didn't want to pay the money. They didn't want to send the money to the school.
I can't do it. Is all I can say. I can't do it. It's just
and the thing that happens is like when they delay funding schools, it has all kind of ripples effects, right?
Yes.
Financial aid don't go through. They can't do housing. If they got bills to pay, they can't pay because you got us out here explaining stuff, and then they'll go be like, "Well, your school institution defaulted on this loan or didn't pay this on time." Yeah, because y'all was holding up people's money. You know what I mean? So, we're talking about it like it's a small thing, but it's a big thing.
It's a big thing.
Rippling effects. If there was housing, if there were projects to build, like new buildings, it couldn't get done because they didn't have the money to pay these folks to start the work. And when projects get delayed, that's penalties that's being paid oftentimes daily, right? Yes. Because things aren't getting done. So, again,
just another way to cripple HBCUs.
Say what now?
I said it's another way to cripple HBCUs. We are already struggling. We're already trying to scrape by. And the fact that you have the audacity to put everything on hold just so you want an explanation as to why our enrollment went up.
They ain't want no explanation. They just ain't want to send the money. That's all it came down to. And they figured they'll probably humiliate the people into saying no. But like, no, write the check.
I can't.
Or they were suggesting that there might have been some, and also in that was some suggesting that there was some fraud or misrepresentation or some deception going on by these people who, it's a federal offense to go, do the types of things that they were suggesting was going on to explain these 2,000 students, as opposed to 2,000 students that fall decided that, you know what, I'm gonna just go to HBCU because HBCU is the place to be right now.
And to suggest anything other than is at foul or afoot is just as damaging as not giving them the check. So to me, it's
all of it
is damaging. So anyway, I say this to say this: all of you who want to go to HBCUs, go ahead and flood those applications in. All right, because they need flood them. Go.
Right. And if your parents can pay for it, let them. Absolutely. Write them checks, parents.
All day. And if you have to take something or pull out a little something to get them to get there, do what you got to do. But I say
flood them checks and pay that money to them schools.
Flood them like nobody's business. If you are able, flood them. That's all I'm saying. All right. So we'll probably be back like the second week of August, I want to say, maybe in a couple of weeks. We got kids to get ready for school. I got kids to go drop off in college. And we're excited about that. So, but if you haven't already, please get your voting registered. If you haven't voted, register to vote today. If you haven't requested your mail-in ballot, do that today. And make sure that you look out for all the candidates that are coming up. I know that the Florida Democratic Party sent out the email about a couple of things that's coming up in Volusia County. Or take back the vote. I think there's a whole campaign going on. I'm going to try to put that on our Facebook page, but make sure that you are all registered. Make sure that you have a plan for voting day. 2024 is around the corner. Campaigns are going to start heating up. I just want to do a shameless plug. Well, not a shameless plug. So Ron DeSantis is running out of money, child. Them Republican people that he wanted to get to be on his side were like, no, we don't want to deal with you. He had to fire a few people, and he's running through his campaign funds. So I just want to continue to put that out in the atmosphere, that he continues to lose money, that he continues to lose momentum, because he's not only a danger, he's already a danger to Florida. We would not like him to be a danger to the entire country. We don't wish what's going on here in our state to our worst enemies. So I'm just putting that out in the atmosphere. That way he continues to crumble on his way to what he perceives to be the presidency.
They're gonna be some events, some get out the vote, everybody vote events that are happening this weekend too. So check, go to Democratic Broward Dems, I think .org, the Broward Democratic Party. Just do BDP, Broward Democratic Party. Check their website. They have a list of all of the events that's coming up, that's happening throughout the county. So you can find something that's happening near you and become a part of that. So Great job so far being done by and I think I think I just saw something that Nikki Fried, they're about to spend $1 million on getting people registered and getting out the vote. I think that's what they call it. She's about to drop $1 million on what do they call it? Million on voter registration push, right? Because and the reason why they're doing that is because Ron DeSantis had tried to make it a criminal act with very severe penalties for third-party organizations to register voters, right?
Correct.
And then so the I think League of Women Voters, they said a whole bunch of organizations sued and said, bruh, what you doing? You can't do that. And the court agreed. The federal court agreed that part of the law was unconstitutional. So there's an injunction against that. So third-party organizations can, in fact, register folks without facing those severe penalties. And so that's why one of the reasons why the FDP chair has decided that she's going to invest in voter registration, since third parties can continue to register folks to vote. Because we have elderly population, we have people from other countries, who may not be able to be who are not tech savvy enough in order for them to go ahead and do it, since most of what you need to do now is online. So they're continuing to assist people in registering them to vote, because again, that part of the law was struck down. So that's a good investment, because that means that some grassroots organizations should benefit from that type of money being put into voter registration. And so we look forward to seeing Broward being dark blue again.
Wonderful. So Representative Chevron Jones from state senator is doing an education town hall where the Florida Education Commissioner will be present. This will be happening August 10th at 7 p.m. It's happening in Antioch Missionary Baptist Church in Miami Gardens. For your RSVP, if you'd like to join, it is FLDOE townhall.eventbrite.com. Again, that's FLDOE townhall.eventbrite.com. If you are able to show up at Antioch Missionary Baptist Church on August 10th at 7 p.m., I'm going to try my best to be there.
Okay, I know hater, but let me tell you something. If that's the person from the Florida Department of Education, I believe that's going to be a very controlled event, and the questions are going to be controlled too.
Well, I can tell you that I will read his caption, Senator Jones' caption. He says, "We are anticipating the visit of Educational Commissioner." So that's up for interpretation. However, I would still tell you all to go, because it's important that you voice your opinion about the new African American history standards, and that it will be the topic for the evening. Your host will be Senators Jones, Senator Dr. Roslyn Osgood, board member, Miami-Dade School Board member, Dr. Stephen Gallen III. I think that would be a great start to have those conversations.
Okay, well, I support those people. I'm just telling you that I think if that DOP person show up, they ain't gonna answer no questions of any significance.
Manny Diaz,
if they do, it won't be honest.
Manny Diaz is the Florida Education Commissioner, so they anticipate.
Manny Diaz, who used to be in charge of the Florida Democratic Party?
No, that's his son.
Okay, people.
If
y'all got time,
go on and swing.
If you got time, go ahead.
Antioch Mission Baptist Church in Miami Gardens. That's 21311 Northwest 34th Avenue. Again, 21311 Northwest 34th Avenue, August 10th at 7 p.m. So if you are able to go, please join them. And
what date is that?
That is August 10th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
So that's
On that
note, we wish you all stay woke. The woke that we understand it to be, not what stay woke. And make sure that you supplement your children's education moving forward, if you haven't done so already. And we look forward to seeing all of you in a couple of weeks. Continue to enjoy your summer, be safe, and pay attention, because Black folks about to get raced around here.
No, they ain't.
And they're trying to erase us so bad. They can't stand it so much. It's just like
they're about to have a rude awakening and realize that they're boring.
I don't know why you're trying to dim our lights when we always trying to be everything to everybody.
They have no light.
Oof, Lord, child, they can't get any lower, girl. What they low is beneath our low.
Okay.
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all. Have a great
Alrighty.
summer. Be careful. Be safe.